Mass protests erupted with renewed fury in Israel on Monday after lawmakers pushed through a controversial bill overhauling the country's judiciary. Demonstrators blocking Jerusalem's main highway faced a water cannon and had to be dragged away by officers. Inside the parliament, called the Knesset, opposition lawmakers, many of whom had held out hope of a compromise, chanted shame, and some tore up documents after realizing the vote would proceed. It's a political victory for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's hardline religious nationalist coalition, but one that has provoked a political crisis and sparked the largest mass anti-government protests in the country's recent history. While coalition members inside the Knesset celebrated with selfies, outside the divisiveness was on full display. Critics of the plan say it undercuts the Supreme Court's independence as a check on executive power and hurts the country's democratic institutions. Proponents say the unelected judiciary has grown too influential. Public protests involving sometimes hundreds of thousands of demonstrators have, for months, demanded the measure be modified or withdrawn. The divisiveness even prompted some in the nation's vaunted army to warn it put military readiness at risk. Thousands of reservists had signed pledges that they'd refuse call-up orders if the overhaul went ahead. The measure had even drawn criticism from the country's ally, the United States. Here's U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller.
With respect to the vote in the Knesset today, as we've said before, as a lifelong friend of Israel, President Biden has publicly and privately expressed his views that major changes in a democracy should be, if they're going to be enduring, must have as broad a consensus as possible. It was unfortunate that the vote today took place with the slimmest possible majority.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
But Monday, Netanyahu did not waver and voted in favor of the bill. He later released a statement praising what he called a measure, quote, aimed at restoring a degree of balance between the authorities. He said the government would continue to protect individual rights and warned that the military must stay out of any political controversy. Netanyahu also said he hoped to reach an agreement with opposition parties on the rest of his judicial reform plan by the end of November. But his words failed to quell the anger in the streets. As night fell, demonstrators blocking traffic in Tel Aviv braved more water cannons and police on horseback, chanting the word democracy.